Hey, Dan Candell, your anxiety relief guy, and in today's episode of the Anxiety Relief Revolution, I'm going to be teaching you something I teach a lot of my clients, and that is how to take off your guilt kilt. I like to give things funny names and funny responses because it's one thing I like to do is teach people these little funny things so that way they can remember them very easily. And let's talk about a kilt before we get into guilt. And I have it pulled up here because some people might not know what a kilt is. A kilt is a Scottish Gaelic knee-length skirt with pleats at the back, originating in the traditional dress of Gaelic men and boys in Scottish Highlands. And guess what? When people wear kilts, which are these little skirts, many times people don't wear anything underneath the kilt. And kilts, if they were to blow up, guess what? They expose everything underneath. So a lot of people choose to go freeballing underneath their kilt. And that's why many people don't anymore, because many people have a fear of exposure. And guilt is the same way, isn't it? A lot of people feel really uncomfortable about feeling guilty, as if it's a sign of weakness, or if they have to suffer through guilt and be miserable because they're afraid of being exposed. Now, here's a lot of insight about this. So first and foremost, full disclosure, as I'm a very transparent person, recently I went through a couple of things in my life where I felt really guilty. And I reached out to one of my friends who is a therapist. Many of my good friends are therapists, and we have like that circle of trust. So I call them, they call me, and we just got to get our poop in a group sometime, and we need to bounce things off of one another because sometimes we all just need that pep talk. So I called my friend who's a therapist, and I said, I'm going through this thing, and I told her what it was, and I said, the people around me are making me feel really, really guilty for making this decision and for taking time for myself. And I said, guilt is a really difficult emotion for me to process. And she said to me, Dan, I don't know anyone who likes to process guilt. And if you find someone that really enjoys being guilty, let me know so I can work with them, because there's probably something wrong with them. Like, touche. But here's what I realized. I felt something like many of my clients feel, and that is that feeling guilty made me weak. And a lot of my clients have felt that way too. A lot of my clients feel that feeling guilt or feeling guilty is a sign of weakness, and it's not. That is feedback telling you that there are some things you might need to adjust or change in your life, specifically some of the people in your life. Because one thing that you probably have said many times before, if you felt guilty about something, was, oh, someone made me feel guilty, or my mom made me feel guilty, or my spouse guilted me into this. And guess what? That's on you, cupcake. Nobody can make you feel guilty. They can try, they can shame you, but they can't make you feel guilty. That is your response to what they're saying. So I'm going to be teaching you today how to take off your guilt kilt and some things to keep in the back of your mind if you do feel guilty about something. Now, while we're talking about this, let me know in the comments section or in the review section if you have felt guilty about something before, and tell me if it was really hard to process or if it was really easy to process for you. And if you see me looking down here, if you're watching the video, I have my little notebook that I write down all my notes in whenever I shoot a video and when I'm working with clients as well. It's kind of like my black book of therapeutic techniques, my little journal. So here's a few things to keep in mind. Nobody can make you feel guilty. They can try by shaming you, or they can try by making you feel bad about choosing whatever option you're choosing or doing whatever you're doing. But that's on them. That is 100% on them. So nobody can make you feel guilty. Now, with that said, it's not right for others to guilt or shame you. And often people guilt others or try to guilt others or shame them from being selfish, or for choosing themselves first, or for putting themselves first, or for making other plans, or for for not canceling plans, or even from moving on in relationships, moving on in jobs, from making difficult decisions. And people that try and guilt you when they know you're trying to make a difficult decision, I'm just going to put this out there and say, that's wrong, and you need to set boundaries with those people. You need to set boundaries with the people who try and keep that guilt kilt on you because they want you to feel exposed if you go and do your own thing, or if you make a decision for yourself, or if you choose you first. So here's something that I've heard many of my clients get feedback with, or other people have said this to many of my clients. A lot of my clients many times hear this from family and friends. You're being selfish. And that makes a lot of people feel guilty. And guess what? You need to be selfish in certain parts of your life to choose you. And here's one of the ways you can respond to it. Number one, you can agree with them, because when you agree with a person, it often diffuses an argument. You can agree with them. You say, yeah, I'm being selfish, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm choosing me first, and I've got to do this for me. And you might not understand that now, but you will. So remember that. If someone tries to guilt or shame you, and they're saying, well, you're just being selfish. Yeah, I am, because I've got to take time for me. I haven't done something like this in a long time, or I've got to work on my happiness so that I can be there for other people. So keep that in mind. If someone says you're being selfish, or you shouldn't do that, agree with them. Say, well, yeah, I am being selfish. Or if someone says you shouldn't do that, you should do this instead. You should cancel plans with those people, and you should come and hang out with me. And guess what? If they try and make you feel guilty about that, say, listen, here's the thing. I've got to do what's right for me right now, and that's what I got to do. And if you can't understand that, then that's on you. And when you put it in that way and you agree with them, it often diffuses the situation. But here's the other part of this. People who try to guilt you and shame you for choosing yourself first, those are often people that never know how to deal with being put aside. Those are often people that don't know how to be alone, and they weren't taught the skills necessary to feel comfortable with themselves. Not all the time, but many times it is. And for others to try and guilt and shame you, it's just like they're choking you, and it's just like they are squandering your progress in whatever development that you're trying to make. Sometimes if it's job or personal or professional, or relationship-wise, or if you have a goal, and sometimes you do have to take more time and you have to kind of put people aside, and you have to work on you. You have to work on the things that you need to work on to achieve that goal. And for some people, they look at goal setting as selfish. And guess what? It is selfish, and you should be selfish, because you have to focus on you first before you show the greatness inside of you to everybody else. You've got to work on you, because you've got to take yourself and tell yourself that you're important and you're valuable. And sometimes you've got to make difficult decisions. So let's talk about the opposite of guilt. Here's how you take off your guilt kilt. Like I said, you agree with people. Yes, I'm being selfish and there's nothing wrong with that. Or I'm choosing to work on me. I've got to do this. And if you don't understand, then I don't know what to tell you. That's on you, Cupcake. But the opposite of guilt is pride and feeling proud. So the next time you start to feel guilty, the next time you start to feel shame, then tell yourself this. You know what? I'm proud of myself that I'm actually working on this. I'm proud of myself that I'm taking the steps necessary in order to treat myself better. And be proud of you. And be your own cheerleader, your own advocate. Because sometimes people may not understand why you're choosing you first. And when you choose you first, guess what happens? You set boundaries. You no longer become a doormat. and people start respecting you more. Sure, some people that don't understand, they're going to distance themselves from you. Some people may never understand. In fact, we've probably all heard of like the Jewish mother's guilt, right? And I know some people who are very good at that. In fact, I have a lot of friends who are Jewish and a lot of friends who are Italian, and they always go back and forth. No, Italian mother's guilt is worse than Jewish mother's guilt. And like, oh my gosh. So that's how you take off your guilt kilt. Feel proud that you're putting you first. And if someone tries to guilt or shame you, that's not right on their part. But you can agree with them and say, you know what? Yeah, I am taking time for me. I've got to do this, and I hope you'll understand. So with that said, my friends, hopefully this helps you take off your guilt kilt. Hopefully this helps you from reversing that fear of being exposed, as if your kilt blows right up in your face, right? And it exposes everything underneath. Keep in mind, guilt is not a sign of weakness. You don't have to be stuck in guilt. You don't have to be miserable going through guilty times. You can be proud of yourself for taking yourself first, for treating yourself better. And you can be proud for being your own advocate and your own cheerleader, and other people around you will start to respect you better. Hey, if you like this video, please rate and share this with somebody that you feel can benefit from this message. I get messages all the time of people who have that overwhelming guilty feeling, and this is something that those people need to hear and that you may need to hear. Also, feel free to follow me, rate, subscribe, comment, everything like that, so I know that you're taking something away from this, because it helps me when I see you giving me love, because I want to give all of you love as well. With that said, my friends, be well, do good, be true to who you are, and as always, stay sexy, cupcakes.